Genesis chapter 6, the first two verses are a single sentence. Everybody misses that. Genesis 6, verse 1 and 2 are a single sentence. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the B'nai Ha-Elohim, the sons of God, a term used exclusively for angels in the Old Testament, saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. Weird goings on. Notice these are the same sentence that avoids a lot of other errors. B'nai Ha-Elohim, it is always used of angels, and it's in Job and other places. In the book of Enoch, which is useful for grammar and vocabulary of the period. The Septuagint, the translation of the Old Testament into the highly precise Greek, 3 centuries before Christ was born, clearly identifies this term as angels.
So you make a list of hypotheses. This is obviously not the natural phenomenon, and the extraterrestrial explanation seemed to be the best one. Why shouldn't we know that there's got to be life throughout the universe? So why shouldn't it be able to come here, especially since there must be civilizations there that are thousands, if not millions of years ahead of us? But then, as you get more and more data, you realize that's not what the witnesses are describing. What the witnesses are describing is something that, in many cases, comes out of nowhere, disappears into nowhere. There are cases of objects becoming transparent on the spot, physical objects, material objects. And I have no question that people have said, well, Vallée doesn't believe this is physical. Well, of course it is physical. It's material at some times, but it can also change shape. It can also merge with other objects, and it can also disappear on the spot. Well, if it does that, then it could be from anywhere, anytime.
We always try to, to discredit the old legends, trying to say, no, these people were crazy, they thought everything was possible. But now we have the videos, and that's the big difference. Could you believe there are videos now of probably angels in the sky?
And then I started looking at some of the things that didn't fit. And one of the things that I had to ask is, when did this actually start? Every UFO book starts with, on June 24, 1947, Kenneth Arnold saw something about cranium and so on. Well, that's not really true. I mean, we have data from the 30s and the 20s and from 1896 and 1897 all over the United States, and then you can go back in history. And many people don't want to hear that. They want to hear that this is, if you follow the first level extraterrestrial theory, then ETs, discovered us when the atom bomb went off and they came here to study us. Well, that's not what the data says. So when did it start? And I found an enormous wealth of data going back to medieval times and even before. Of course, as you go back in history, you lose the cultural context, and it's harder to understand the data. But in medieval times, there were records, especially the records of the church, that were kept very, very carefully about strange phenomena. The skeptics are always saying, well, give us your best case and we'll take it apart. There is no such thing as one best case in any field. You have to look at an accumulation of cases and look for patterns, and then that's how the phenomenon reveals itself to you.
And for a long period of time, or for a period of time, I believed it was extraterrestrial. I now believe it is interdimensional, the phenomena. In other words, we're looking at so-called spirit beings from another dimension. And I back this up in the new book by equating it to ancient manuscripts where these beings manifested to human beings and what their reactions were, and then comparing it to reactions present day of people who have had encounters, and the similarities are striking. Because first of all, you say to yourself, why would let's say anyone deliberately crash saucers in Roswell, New Mexico, and then allow the bodies to be retrieved? What are these bodies, in fact? And it took me a long time to figure this out. And this is a theory, okay? There's a difference between the grays, the little guys, right, that we see that have now been enculturated with the big black slanted eyes that are about 4 feet tall, all right? Those, let's just call them the grays because pretty much everyone knows them as grays. But there's another creature which people and abductees talk about that they see on board the ships, and these are tall beings, and they assume different forms. Sometimes they can appear as reptilian, other times they can appear as insectoid, other times they can appear as Nordic. In other words, in my opinion, they're shapeshifters. Now, why would I say that? What backs it up? There's a scripture, once again, from our spiritual handbook, which says that basically fallen angels can appear as angels of light if they so choose. Okay. They can appear as angels of light if they so choose. That's a shapeshifter, but it shapeshifts. It can appear as whatever it wants to appear. Insectoid, reptilian, who knows what the thing really looks like. In my opinion, it's probably a reptilian. Apparently there was some sort of a confrontation, there was some sort of a war between these beings, sides were drawn up, and we're kind of like, we're almost like cannon fodder in a way. This unseen war, which is happening in another dimension all around us that we don't see.
They were shaped like bows without strings, and they were bigger than the biggest mountains. They came out of the sky bringing great noise, black smoke, and fire with them. And out of those huge objects came them. But when the Chitauri arrived in Africa, they told our people that they were gods and that they were going to give us human beings great gifts on one condition. We had to worship them and accept them as our creators. Some told our people that they were our elder brothers and that this earth had produced them generations ago. And they said they had come back to the green womb of their mother and that they were going to make us into gods.
3,500 years ago, during the reign of King Thutmose III, ancient Egypt was invaded by spherical UFOs which were described as circles of fire. According to ancient papyrus, these spherical UFOs filled the sky for several days. In his fascinating book, British author Matthew Deleuze shows photos of strange alien reptiles, some with the bodies of apes and heads of lizards. These can be found on the walls of the Temple of Hathor at Dendera in Egypt. Here we see reptilian humanoid creatures alongside pharaohs and bird-headed beings. Strange giant light bulbs, possibly some form of plasma beam weapon, can clearly be seen at the Temple of Hathor. Inside these strange devices, there are serpents. This is possibly a pictorial message that this alien plasma technology was given to the elite of ancient Egypt by a serpent or reptilian race of aliens. Like the Antikythera mechanism from ancient Greece and the Baghdad battery, this plasma technology was a closely guarded secret technology reserved for the use of the elite in ancient Egypt. More ancient than the Mayan kingdoms of Central America, older than ancient Greece, and predating the pharaonic dynasties of Egypt, the Sumerian Empire was formed more than 6,000 years ago, stretching from the Indus Valley region in Pakistan to the capital called Uruk. Sumeria is known as the cradle of civilization. It was here that white-skinned peoples from the Caucasus Mountains spread a worldwide cult of blood ritual and magic to the rest of the world.
Hayat Nabat, and Emet Nabat, Shadafulot F, Awat F, Haset, Samawu, and Sanut.
Two authors, Zechariah Sitchin and the British genius John Marco Allegro, who translated large parts of the Dead Sea Scrolls, studied ancient Sumerian clay tablets, which were discovered at Nineveh in the 1800s. These clay tablets told the history of the Sumerian Empire, an empire which was formed by invading aliens called the Anunnaki.